guys, it's time for the 15th episode of F4. Today is going to be all about how to utilize COTS parts. We have a ton of co-hosts here today, or the same amount as always. So anyway, let's get to it. We'll switch to our main screen, and, wait for XSpit to load. Awesome. So, on my left, I have Mr. Nick, so just, introduce yourself, Nick.
My name is Nick. I'm the incoming mechanical specialist and former lead programmer on 5202. And I talk about things. I don't know where to go with that.
And then below him we have Anand.
Hey, I'm Anand. I'm in charge of mechanical, or was in charge of mechanical on 5, and now I'm graduated, so.
Awesome. And then below him we have Chak.
Hi, I'm Jack. I guess I'm in charge of mechanical and CAD for 4159.
I guess. Alright, awesome. So, today, again, as I said already, it's going to be all about COTS parts. And our first thing is, well, what is a COTS part? So, if you are a new person to first, you might be very confused at what is this COTS thing. It stands for commercial off the shelf, and it means just that. If the part anybody, I think the definition is something that anyone can buy.
Yeah, custom made doesn't count.
Yeah, and it's not a COTS part if you start modifying it. So as soon as you drill a hole in a piece of Versa frame, it's not COTS anymore. And yeah, that's basically.
There's an exception to that, actually. If you cut something for transport purposes to an event, it's neither COTS nor fabricated. It's weird. It's like you can bring it
raw materials, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's like if you bring like a piece of 80/20 that's 6 feet long and you cut into 3 feet segments, you're fine.
Yeah. And that, again, a COTS part, what is a COTS part is up to debate by an LRI, but whatever. For the most part, a COTS part is something you can buy and everyone else could buy, usually offline, could be in a store. Awesome. Next thing is why use COTS parts. So, it saves time. I mean, if COTS didn't exist, and it didn't exist for a long time for the most part, or at least COTS parts specific for FRC applications, it's a lot harder to build a robot. Back in the day, there was a lot of robots that just straight up never drove at events, and you don't see that as often today. And the other time, it's easier than making it yourself for the most part.
For different reasons, you see it.
Yeah.
No comps.
And then the last thing is, I think, all agree that you should try to use COTS parts whenever possible, within reason, but it's usually a better idea to use COTS parts unless it gives you a clear competitive advantage. Yeah,
the time I've definitely seen not to use COTS parts is if you see that anything on the market works to an extent, but then, like, say you want your transmission on the same side as your motors, then you're going to want custom in that case.
But a lot of time you can just design around using COTS parts and make everything simple.
Yeah.
So
everyone
has CADs for it.
Try to do that for the most part, but if it really is, there's some parts you just straight up can't make with COTS parts, and then just as long as it provides a competitive advantage, otherwise I probably wouldn't do it. Alright, next thing is, do only bad teams use COTS parts? And yeah, of course not.
Hey, who brought that up? That's a stupid question.
I mean, the thing is, I think to at least a newer person in FRC, they don't really know that. They're like, oh, all the big teams make everything themselves, and that's totally not true. Like, 254 uses a lot of COTS parts, 1678 uses a lot of COTS parts.
Yeah, and actually, 118's, I don't know what you'd call it, but their catapult arm that kind of bends like this, if you've seen it.
Yes.
That's actually COTS. It's not custom made, as incredible as it is. Like, I asked someone to ask a champ, and it was like, no, they're like, this is COTS from some piping company near us. I don't remember the name.
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, COTS parts are awesome. Alright, so the next point we have is vendors. So there is a lot of vendors that you can buy COTS parts at, way more than we're ever going to list. So we just listed a bunch that we use, and FRC-specific ones. So that'll be Vex Pro, West Coast Products, AndyMark, SDPSI, is that correct? McMaster, yeah. BaneBots, and Competition Robot Parts. So Competition Robot Parts is probably the one that very few people do actually know. They have a couple things like gussets. There's a really good linear motion guide, that they have on there. Just a couple little parts that... the coolest thing they have in there is these little caps that go into tubing for tubing intakes. But anyway, yeah, those are kind of all the vendors. And we're going to kick it off with AndyMark. So we're going to talk a little bit about what AndyMark does. So anyone else want to, start going through the bullet points?
Sure, I
Any
guess.
mark? Oh, yeah, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
AnyMark is like it's an older company. It's one of the older FRC specific companies that we have. As far as I know, it started out either the very early 2000s or like very late 90s.
Yeah.
So some of the things that AnyMark has that sets them apart from other FRC specific vendors is that they have this thing called the Tuesday Deal of the Day, which is where every Tuesday they put a random product on sale. And a lot of times, if you keep your eye on it, then you can get really good deals on some parts.
Yeah, we got an AM4 1U2. Sorry, AM14U2 for I think we got just the frame for like $80.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
you can get some good stuff.
Yeah.
AnyMark also sells FTC products. So if you want like stuff like servos, it's not a bad place to go, and you could just like chuck it on your order. It tends to be heavier than Vex parts. It's usually a little stronger, more well built. That's
It's
of
usually made of
course.
steel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of speculation. It's of course not always, but generally it's a little heavier, a little stronger. They have some cheap stuff, some really weird sizes. They make the kitbot every year, and if you don't want the kitbot and you opt out, you get a voucher to AnyMark. I think it's $400, right?
$450.
$450. So you'll have money to spend there.
That's a $150 difference from the kitbot itself, which is an important distinction to make. So if you opt out of the kitbot, you gain some versatility in what you can do, but you also are losing $150.
In theory.
So would you guys choose the kitbot?
The kitbot's really useful for when you need like an extra chassis. So like for this year, we accidentally forgot to opt out of the kitbot, but in the end, we actually ended up using a kitbot kind of a lot. In addition to giving it lets like people who aren't as experienced with FRC or like who aren't experienced on your team work with like the chassis, get to know all the tools and stuff, and assemble the gearboxes. It's a really good way to test things out early on, especially because you get it so quickly, and you can mock up an electrical board, get all the stuff that you'd normally be testing on a full robot, test it on there.
Yeah,
Really
just
handy stuff.
drill a piece of plywood to the bottom and you're good. I mean, I wish they
Mhm.
gave some kind of belly plate for it. That would be amazing, but they don't.
That's probably the biggest reason why they don't give a belly pan is actually shipping. They're shipped in those little boxes. And
Oh yeah.
It would cost a lot more to them if they actually gave a belly pan.
Oh,
But yeah. I mean, the kitbots, they're not bad. Many games, they will function just as well as a custom drivetrain for the most part. I mean, there are drivetrains that, function very well, but generally they don't provide too little, they don't hurt your competitive advantage too much. If you're a first-year team, second-year team, or just a team without many resources in general, most likely, unless you have a mentor that's experienced, I would just say stick with the kitbot and spend more time on your mechanisms than the drivetrain. Don't get hung up on the robot driving. You don't want to be that team that we spoke of earlier that doesn't drive at your event.
Yeah, on top of that, also make sure you build your drivetrain quickly. This year, we built our drivetrain for I think we built it week 1, and then we got our pneumatic wheels and we switched the whole thing out, and then we spent the whole next week diagnosing problems, and you don't want to deal with that. Just go straight up kitbot if you can. Even if it's something like aerial assist, you absolutely do not need to go beyond the standard wheels or anything.
Mhm.
Yeah, and another thing to add with the kitbot is sometimes they'll add upgrade kits after they know the game. So once the game is released, like this year they added a wedge for the kitbot. They also added a pneumatic wheel kit. So they do make so like this year I feel like was probably the first year since the kitbot was introduced that it didn't function for the game for everything that required driving.
Really?
It wasn't able to go over many of the defenses. Stop.
Wait, really? I think it definitely was.
No, they did test it. So yeah, it would get stuck on some of the rough terrain defenses. It wasn't able to get over the rock wall.
Yeah. Wait, with the pneumatic upgrade kit, I saw that they're able to get over pretty much everything.
Yeah. So we used the pneumatic upgrade kit with the kitbot. I actually wrote the manual for the pneumatic upgrade kit because we got it and it didn't have a manual. And I think once you have the pneumatic upgrade kit, you could do anything driving. But without the pneumatic upgrade kit and just the 6-inch or 4-inch wheels.
It's 6.
6-inch, yeah,
the
but that's
6-inch
still...
wheels, you're not getting over defenses. You might have been able to add 8-inch wheels, and you'd be able to get over to them, most likely, like 8-inch normal wheels, but you would still have issues with, shock. You pretty much wanted to use pneumatic wheels this year. But yeah, the bottom line is it did not function that well for this game, but they did give kits after the fact. They were very expensive to make it work.
Yeah, ours actually didn't even come with the correct number of spacers. We had to kind of figure out what
Yeah.
to do with them. Yeah.
Next thing is they have PG planetary gearboxes. I've never used them, but
Yeah.
maybe they're decent.
They're actually good for
PGs are good. We have PGs from probably I think like 08, 09, long time ago, well before I was there. Very useful things.
Yeah, I've only used the
They work.
Versa planetaries and the Banebots ones, but the next thing is they have the darts. So those are basically the only FRC legal linear actuator. There is the ones that function with servos, and then of course you could rip apart ones and add another motor, but that's kind of hard. But yeah, they're pretty much the only one. A lot of people don't like them. They have issues with them, but they do function a purpose that really nothing else does. They're also really expensive, but you can only buy those from MiniMark.
what are they? Those
Actually,
$300?
They got a lot cheaper. They used to be like $400, and now they're like $300. I don't know what they made them cheaper.
Still
but-
pretty expensive. I can buy a cylinder for like $30.
Uh,
But it doesn't do the same thing. The next thing is it's very robust. So 115 apparently still has stuff from the mid 2000s, and the wheels are really
Yeah,
strong.
we do.
What are
I think we have like at least 2 or 3 tough boxes just like disassembled, laying in like a bucket, along with a lot of assembled gearboxes like AM planetaries and stuff from a long time ago. I'm honestly not sure. And we have a gem planetary that's been around for like ages. I'm not sure how old the stuff is, but I know we have stuff from like back when AndyMark was like under fire for selling like COTS gearboxes. It was
wow.
yeah, we have a lot of old stuff. AndyMark lasts a long time.
Yeah, so, I mean, Andy Baker was a World Woody Flowers finalist. I mean, World Woody Flowers winner. The guy knows FRC, and he will help you out if something's broken. I mean, we changed how they made Tough Box Nanos because we couldn't get our fingers in, and then they released a whole new gearbox that, like, you can actually, like, disassemble the 2 side plates. So, they listen to people. It's an awesome company. The next thing is another company that's specific to FRC for the most part, and that's Vexpro / West Coast Products. They are 2 companies. They kind of overlap the products. Some of them produce the products, some of them sell the products. It's kind of weird. I don't really understand the relationship, but yeah, they both sell a lot of the same products, and we'll talk about some of the stuff they make. So, anybody want to talk about VersaFrame VersaKeys?
VersaFrame is like it's basically just like a tubing system along with a lot of different gussets, and the Versa key system is kind of the way that they integrate different parts. So VersaFrame, it comes in multiple sizes. They have a 2-inch by 1-inch by 0.1 inch thickness aluminum tubing, along with 0.04 thickness aluminum tubing, and a 1-inch by 1-inch tubing in the same sizes. And they have pre-drilled holes at half-inch intervals on 2 sides of the 4.
And they also have scored lines on the other 2 sides, which are really nice for lining up stuff.
Yeah. And VersaKeys is this, it's a pattern of I think 172 or 176 holes on a 1.875 inch circle. And basically what that does is it lets you interface with any other product that they have that has that same hole pattern. So pretty much everything they offer has it. They have gears with it, they have sprockets with it, the wheels all have it. Basically everything that the Brex sells has the VersaKeys, so you can use a lot of their stuff and swap it out.
It's also kind of compatible with the AndyMark sort of Versa key that isn't really a Versa key, and except the AndyMark ones I think are number 10 bolts, and the Vex Pro ones are number 8 bolts.
Yeah.
So I drill everything out to number 10, everything Vex we have for the most part, just because that's what we standardize on. But yeah, they do a lot of stuff with that. The next thing is as we just said in the doc, I'm gonna say it here: VersaPlanetaries are the shit. Okay, VersaPlanetaries are awesome. If you don't know what they are, so basically, VersaPlanetary is a planetary gearbox. You can do whatever you want with the gearboxes. They basically interface with every normal motor in FRC, excluding the automotive stuff and servos. And they allow you to use many different gearing combinations, basically anything you want to a certain limit. And with that said, there is a loading guide for the VersaPlanetaries that you should use. Don't go out of it for the most part, or for anything. I mean, they know what they're doing. There's a reason why they say don't do this. And yeah, it's not a firm guide. It is just a recommendation, but for the most part, you probably should follow it. The only
Yeah.
issues that some people find with Versa Planetaries is they are very tiny. The gears are really small, so you might have some durability issues. We've had some issues with them interfacing with 775 Pros, and that's a common issue for others, but they're really nice. They have an access hole to tighten the coupler. You can take the motor off without disturbing the rest of the gearboxes. And then a really big thing with Versa Planetaries is stuff goes out of stock, and it goes out of stock to the point where you can't buy it that year. So buy everything you need, or at least most of the things you need, either really early on in the season or before the season starts, and that includes replacements.
Yeah, and also make sure
Remember,
you.
like whatever you buy, you can still use it. So yeah, it's not a waste. Even if you buy something you're not going to use this season, you can still use it next season. You can still use it whenever.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, and the thing about 775 Pros, 775 Versa Planetaries that's worth mentioning is their SIM adapter, as Sam is well aware, is less than optimal. It's made of plastic and it can crack.
It's made of glass field nylon, but it's alright.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's plastic.
That's it's flat technically, but anyway, yeah, no, like that can break. I think I'm gonna talk about that a little later. But anyway, let's get on to the next thing. Yeah, so is that supposed to be there? The other gearboxes? Oh yes. Well, there is other gearboxes, obviously, other than Versa Planetaries. There is like the Sim-Isle, which is really nice. The Gem gearboxes, all the stuff from AndyMark, and Vex Pro, along with West Coast product sales. A lot more gearboxes. Generally, Versa Planetaries are used for manipulators. I very rarely have seen them on drivetrains, but I have seen it. And yeah, there's a lot of other gearboxes. The next thing that I'm not going to talk
It's a little
about...
bit too small for drivetrains.
Yeah, it's... I don't think it really wants to handle the loads. They're really tiny. I was very surprised the first time I saw them. They make a sim look huge. But the next thing is dog shifters versus ball shifters. Who wants to talk about that? Non, do you want to take that?
So the main difference between dog shifters and ball shifters is that, I mean, one of them uses this thing called a shifting dog, which is shaped kind of like a circle with things sticking out of it, or like a cylinder with things sticking out of the ends, and a ball shifter, which basically uses steel balls to engage the gears. The main difference between the dog shifter and the ball shifter in FRC there's a few main differences. One is that the Vex ball shifter gears by default use bronze bushings, which are a little bit less efficient than the ball bearings that you see that West Coast Products uses and AndyMark uses in their dog shifter. The other difference is that ball shifter actually requires a little bit less force to shift because the movement of the ball into the engagement things on the gear is a lot less. Use a lot less force than the dog shifter does because the dog shifter has a lot of rubbing as you shift it in and out. Ultimately, both of them have worked fine for people like since forever. Some people like the dog shifter more because it is a slightly stronger connection. But for the lifetime that we see in FRC ball shifters, I've never had a problem with them personally. I mean, it depends. Mostly, it's not the shifter itself.
Is there a reason you would pick one over the other?
Yeah, so the ball shifter, if you're designing a custom gearbox, it's actually got the gears are closer together on the shaft. Whereas with the dog shifter, the dog is in between them, so it does take up a bit of space. Ball shifters also let you use a slightly smaller gear, whereas dog shifters need a slightly larger gear because the engagement things for the dog are bigger than what it takes up for the ball shifter. Ultimately, for FRC, it doesn't matter. You can pick either one, and ultimately, the other parts of the gearbox are more important than what shifter it uses.
All right, and the next thing that I think you brought up was the Actobotics system. I think it's made by Servo City, right?
Yeah, Actobotics. Actobotics is like Vex, but on like super steroids. It has 2 different sizes of hole patterns on every single product they sell. All the products are designed to be used with each other, no machining at all. So whereas Vex uses like the scored lines on the side of their Versatube, Actobotics does not have that. All of their like framing members have all the holes that you'll ever need on them.
This reminds me of Vex's lower level stuff, really. Like the I don't know what you call them, but the green
just regular
stuff.
Vex.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Vex Robotics.
Vex
Yeah.
EDR, Vex, whatever. Yeah.
I don't know. So I was wondering, do you guys think that like Vex is trying to go towards that, like trying to remove machining and trying to like replace it with more of a like everything's already like done for you, you need to bolt it together kind of thing? Or do you think that they're more trying to like they're trying to keep it so that way like teams have to machine, maybe to drive down costs?
I think Vex is trying to find a nice middle ground because they could easily say, here are holes, you can use them with everything we sell, but I think then they would be less attractive because teams definitely want to use custom stuff, and from other manufacturers. Because if you have a hole there and you need to move the hole like a quarter inch over, you're done. You have to. It's going to make a double hole. There's no way around it.
I think they're avoiding the Actobotics thing for like a little bit, just because they don't want the big threat on Cheap Delphi yelling at them. Because it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So
that might actually be a little bit correct, right?
Yeah, there are times where I'm like, with like say the Andy Mark intake this year, like I got a little turned off. I was just like, that's a little too far, in my opinion. But of course, they'll kind of do whatever they want to make money. It is a job for all these people.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think the intake from Andy Mark, just kind of an aside, the whole patterns are actually really nice because they interfaced well with the AM 14U3, because they actually fit directly on top of the frame itself. So we had like our Class A manipulator was just a piece of intake bracket with a motor attached to it that was drilled down into the frame. Would I say that's a perfect solution for everything? No, but if you're the company that's selling the frame already, I don't see why it's a big issue.
All right. So the next thing vendor we have listed is McMaster-Carr. So
well, actually, Sam, at first you were saying like they're gonna do whatever they're gonna do to make money. Yeah, I don't think they're in it to make a lot of money.
Not always, not all for. I mean, Vex makes a lot more money off hex bugs than they make off us. I mean, it's all hex bugs over there at IFI. But I think there is a level of they are trying to make money. It is a business.
Yeah,
I think there is also a level.
I think in the particular case, the Animark intake, it's not so much that because they're a business. It's because they felt like, well, this is the thing that the teams need. Now, I mean, for some, it's going too far, right? And I agree with you. I think that one did go a little bit too far. But ultimately, I mean, as a company, it's their decision what they want to do to release it. I don't think the profitability of the intake really played into it, because any team that would buy that intake probably doesn't have a lot of money. And I think like their target market isn't like the team that has a lot of money to buy like this like super intake menu.
And they're not buying two.
Yeah, well, with the intake, with the something where I think might be too far is something like Animark's Swerve and Steer kit. That definitely, I actually haven't seen how well that works.
I mean, they were the first person to make an out-of-box Swerve. I mean, what's that other supplier that made the Swerve?
Vex Pro sells it like for Team 223.
Team 221. Oh yeah, they're COTS.
Oh yeah, we forgot about them. Team 221 has a website. They sell like a couple things.
I don't think Team 221 actually exists anymore. The company, though, does. So they're different things. Like, Team 221 FRC is different from Team 221 LLC that actually sells things.
Yeah.
So as confusing as that is, yeah, 221 Robotic Systems is the technical name for it. They make a couple of like drivetrain stuff, it looks like. Yeah, and also they sell the oh no, they don't. Never mind. They used to sell the Dark Soul Chainbreaker, but that's been out of stock forever.
That thing's great, by the way.
Yeah,
like we number one COTS product right there.
Yeah, honestly, yes. All right, so McMaster-Carr. So McMaster is insane. It has everything. I'm convinced that like between McMaster and IKEA, okay, the world is taken over. And yeah, no. Bottom line is McMaster sells basically everything you'd ever need.
The only thing they don't sell that I really wish they did sell were gears and other items with hex things already broached.
Oh.
But I mean, I don't think they're an FRC supplier. So.
They're not, but but I would like it if they did have it.
The thing about McMaster is that it's designed for more industrial of applications. So they sell like literally everything, but at like a slight markup, which for like a big company, I guess it's okay. The reason they don't sell hex board gears is because nobody uses hex board gears but FRC.
Yeah.
Right.
They're just because we are the only people that actually have to like switch out gears and care about how easy it is to use them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So like that's just the way it is, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think there's like hex board bearings now, but that's the only thing.
Oh yeah. Are really overpriced too. Like well, that's because they use them in like tractors, I think. That's
awesome. So the next thing is so apparently they don't tell you shipping costs until it's too late. Does anyone want to comment on that?
I haven't had that issue.
Shipping is fast. It's always fast. There's no slow option.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, like I've literally ordered something at 8 p.m. the night before and had it in our lab the next afternoon. Yeah. Like I've never, but I do remember them listing the shipping, unless I'm wrong. I feel like they do.
They list the shipping method, like ground, air, whatever, right? Although ground usually gets it to me in like 1 or 2 days. But they don't list the price. So like actually 2 days ago, I ordered a big roll of foam It was $21, and I click order, and it's like your order's in place, so it's super fast, right? Once you make an account, there you can order things in literally a click. But I didn't figure out the shipping cost until after I actually received the product a couple of days later, and I paid like $7 for shipping, which isn't bad, but it is like if you're ordering something that's oversized or like particularly like heavy, then it might end up being bad for you because you won't know the shipping cost before you buy it.
Yeah,
don't
so,
order huge sheets of metal from McMaster's.
Yeah, so the thing is, what's different about a McMaster than like every other supplier we're going to talk about today, is they have other distribution centers, not just at their location. So they deal with a very large customer base, a lot of people. So there's probably 3 or 4 distribution centers, if not more, around the United States. And also they ship to other countries, right? Too. They have McMaster's, not just U.S. So that's cool too. There are issues with some of these FRC suppliers only supplying to United States, sometimes Canada teams. So, yeah.
Yeah, like McMaster, they have one in I think Philadelphia. So like if you're on the East Coast, you're good.
Yeah, they have one in SoCal too, which is why we get it so fast.
Yeah, so that's what's nice about a McMaster. So then the next couple things, apparently it's great for discrete parts. It's not bad for hardware, but apparently it's bad for materials and assembled things. Yeah, if you buy large, heavy stuff, shipping shoots up and you don't really know the price. It's good if you need a ton of stuff in one shipment, and it's basically everything, so it's really good for that weird material you need. And also, you can get Bimba cylinders there, so you can get them in the more average sizes. And if you want some weird custom stuff, you do have to buy it straight from them, and you get it next season. But you know, it's really nice.
And just to attest to how strange the items McMaster can sell, I was buying a Bimba cylinder, and they're 2-3-inch cylinder, nothing abnormal. But I was reading the threading size for the head, and I was like, okay, so it's a 5/8-inch nut that's needed for this with 23 threading. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and buy that. And I'm not thinking how big 5/8 of an inch is. So I get these nuts in the next day, and I'm like, when are we ever going to use these? Ever? It's like they're like solid this thick and 5/8-inch diameter. It's crazy.
I think those nuts might be actually those nuts aren't a BIM product. I think they're just standardized for pneumatic cylinders. I don't know.
Those are for the head. Like
pneumatic cylinders have weird standardized bolt sizes. We've had to like go out and buy them for like Ace. Like,
yeah, 1/4 28 is the head normally, and then like the bore threading is the 5/8 23.
All right, so the next supplier.
Well, actually, one more thing.
Go
McMaster's also has like really good guides and stuff on what they're selling, so they explain to you what exactly they're selling to you. So you're not sure, it kind of tells you stuff.
And if not, someone's talked about yourself at one point or another.
They have CAD for like many of their products. Only a few of their products don't offer CAD. The only ones that don't offer CAD are like washers and spacers, because actually spacers offer it, washers and shims do not, because they assume that you can model like a disc on your own.
Yes. So yeah, that's really nice.
I think that's a short, like an oversight on their part, but you know, it's
whatever.
I can't model a square, so I mean.
Well, Nick, I guess we'll teach you. But the next supplier is SDPSI. So that's a belt supplier for the most part, right?
They're like McMaster, but much smaller.
Got it.
It's not all that useful unless you're making custom stuff. So.
Yeah, it's the COTS supplier made for custom people.
Great.
Because they sell like the oddball pulleys and belts and stuff that people use for their flips and gearboxes and like all their custom like belt runs and all that. The main problem with SPSI is that although it does offer a lot of like oddball custom stuff that you often find yourself needing, the shipping times are atrocious. Apparently in the past, we've gotten products like 6 weeks after ordering. They don't tell you when they've shipped things. They don't tell you anything. Recently, I've gotten things in like 1 to 3 weeks, but that's still pretty bad when your build season's only like twice that length.
So they share a shipping ideal as Bimba.
Yeah, I was about to say that's worse than that's almost as bad as Bimba.
Yeah, it's about as bad as Bimba.
Sometimes do they make stuff to order or something?
Yes, I think they do. Yeah.
That would make sense. Okay.
So yeah, Bimba can be really bad.
Bimba's made to order. SDPSI is just slow. I don't know if they have.
So
because they also don't keep things in stock.
Yeah, so it's really good for buying belts, pulleys, GT2 and GT3 belts, and it offers really wide belts up to 25 millimeters. So
we used the 25 millimeter belts last year. That was a good deal.
Yeah, so that's cool.
While we're on the subject of Bimba, actually,
well, we have an entire thing on Bimba.
Yeah, I know. I'm just gonna skip ahead to that if that's okay.
We gotta
That's
do
fine.
Automation
Do
Direct.
after.
We can go,
All right. Okay.
Bimbo.
Okay. We can go to Bimbo. I'm sorry.
Okay. The thing, definitely take advantage of that voucher you have because when you order it week 6 or whatever, you're gonna get it like September of the next year. So you're gonna buy it then, and just have those cylinders on hand. Because if you never know what kind of cylinder you're gonna need, so get something you think you will need, for sure.
That's we use our Bimbo voucher for the next season.
Yeah. Like you can order. I think we have 2-inch bore and like 36-inch stroke in our lab.
Yeah, we have stuff like that too.
Yeah.
Right, because a bigger cylinder is more expensive, so you're getting them free, right?
Actually, what happened was
it was an accident for us.
This was our coach's first year, so he had no clue what he was ordering.
Yeah, we had the same thing.
Yeah.
We almost used it for a climber this year, so
Same here.
Yeah, it did come. It worked. We actually did test it. We prototyped it. We had an entire climber made. We even had a custom clevis made that actually has a hex key, and we had that water jet cut, which was even cooler. But it was just we didn't finish it in time. So yeah, we could do it if we want. The next thing, next company. Oh yeah, I guess we have finished Bimba. So basically, you can get any cylinder you want there, pretty much, except you're not getting it that year.
Yeah,
if you custom make it to like 1,000th of an inch, but don't do custom make. Don't let them custom make it because it's gonna take a long time. Just buy like the standard sizes they have in stock. They even tell you which standard sizes they have in stock. That would be fast.
I think it depends. I've always had decent shipping times with Bimba. Last year I ordered like 2 9/16 bore 50 or 37-inch stroke cylinders, and those only took me like 2 weeks to get, which is bad, but not like that bad.
No, that's not. That's great for Bimba.
Yeah.
I guess.
But then if you order their custom, like their non-custom, like the stuff that they probably have on hand, like 1-inch stroke, half-inch stroke, I think it's faster because I know that some teams use that stuff every year, but I'm not sure.
All right,
well, they do have like an estimated arrival time, so
Yeah, they tell you it before you buy it. Just buy, in my opinion, buy it from McMaster.
If you
we
can.
bought like 3 cylinders for our second competition, and it was probably the best decision I ever made.
But again, it's not free.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, so I would buy for Bimba for the most part, unless you need something that season, you're kind of screwed. Buy it for the next season, and if you need a cylinder and it's a standard size, just get it from McMaster. And if McMaster doesn't sell it, it's probably not that standard. They might have to custom make it. So So yeah, just be careful with Bimba. Make sure you look at their estimated shipping time. Don't get screwed. And the last supplier we have, the last supplier we have is your local hardware store. So
Automation.
It's like an Ace,
Automation Direct. You're skipping it, Sam.
Oh, I forgot Automation Direct. Oh, okay, Automation Direct. That's another sponsor for FRC. So
you get $25.
Listen, are you gonna argue with $25? Okay.
I'm not arguing with it. I'm stating how
much you
get.
I'm liking the $25. Yeah. So we actually we used our Automation Direct PDV for tubing this year, which is really nice. We actually got blue tubing. I don't know why, but I think it's cool. And because it was our first order, and it was over $25, or I think it was like $26, we got a free tubing cutter. Which, if your team doesn't have that and you're using pneumatics, something's wrong. You got to buy one of those things now. And so now we have like 5 of them, which is awesome.
Don't use pliers. Like I found that out the hard way.
Yeah. So use tubing cutters. You get a voucher. They sell a lot of cylinders. They sell like a lot of solenoids. A lot of pneumatic stuff. Like Automation Direct is a good place for just random pneumatic stuff. Those
brass tees you always see, like that first requires you to have for your pressure release valve, they sell those. You can get them from McMaster, but McMaster's gonna have a lot more options, so you might buy the wrong one. But you can get the right one for sure from Automation Direct.
So yeah.
The thing about Automation Direct compared to like Bimba and McMaster is that it's cheaper for cylinders than either of those places. So we switched to Automation Direct for our cylinders back in 2015, and like it's great. In addition to the voucher, they have basically all the cylinders that you actually want there, and they're like a few dollars cheaper. Not like a lot, but like a few dollars.
Yeah. While we're on the topic of cylinders, AnyMark sells these PhD cylinders, I think they're called, and I would not recommend them if you're looking for speed. Because they have like the standard 1/8-inch bore for the tubing, but it's actually just a little pinhole through that the air flows through, so you're not getting fast retraction time. If you want something for like a shooter, you better buy something like Bimba's because that's what's going to help you out.
We actually use those, and they're not bad.
We use
cylinders. The cylinders that everybody sells actually do have that pinhole. I'm not sure exactly what it's for, but basically, if you look at like the cab for any cylinder, I didn't notice this until like I think a few weeks ago. Most cylinders, or all the ones that I've seen, actually do have that tiny pinhole, including the Bimba ones. The size of the pinhole varies. I know the Bimba one, some of their cylinders have a slightly larger one than other cylinders. So AnyMark might have one of the ones that has like a smaller pinhole thing, but all of them definitely have that. It's kind of hard to check because you can't see it on the outside. You have to check it in the CAD.
Yeah, Bimba definitely has big pinholes compared to PhD.
We used the PhD 6-inch stroke cylinder this year on our robot for our indexer that hit the ball into the shooter, and it was way faster than we ever needed. We actually lowered the PSI on it, so like.
Actually, we used that too. I think we used the
We got it from.
Was that the one that we got one the? Yeah, we got one for First Choice too. Yeah, I think we used either the same one or a similar one.
So
we used it on our intake, but for a shooter, it does not work.
So I mean, yeah, I guess if you're trying to use the cylinder for a linear punch or like a pneumatipolt, is that what you guys were using it for? You were trying to do a pneumatipolt?
We were trying to use it for that. Yeah. We ended up using some 7-inch ones we had gotten the previous year from AnyMark.
So for something like that, you might notice a difference. But for most applications, unless you're doing a linear punch or a pneumatic catapult, you're not going to have issues for the most part. The next supplier we'll get back to, well, we are getting back to, is your local hardware store. So like Lowe's, Home Depot, your mom and pop shop, Ace. So it's the fastest option because, well, you can drive there. And it's really good for like when you run out of the one screw, when you just don't have enough rivets left. You should use it for wood, sometimes woodworking tools. It's the easiest way to look at stuff in person. Like, say you need some hinges and you're really not sure. Sometimes, like, sizing on the internet, especially if you don't put it into CAD, can just be weird. As Nick said earlier, I mean, his coach bought a very, very weirdly shaped cylinder, one that's just really huge and, like, really stupid for most applications. But, like, he bought it just because he wasn't visualizing the size in his head. Well, you don't have to at a hardware store because you could hold it. The next thing, it lets you find stuff you weren't looking for. So you might just be walking in the aisle and see like a weird wheel and be like, that might actually work really well as an intake wheel. I put this in there. It's good for stuff like PVC. There's no reason to buy PVC online. Just buy it at your local hardware store. It's probably going to be similar pricing, and you can buy pretty much everything there.
Yeah, just keep it in the back of your mind, like, oh, we could just drive over to the hardware store and get these items anytime we want.
Yeah, tangential.
Usually in the last like couple days of build season, we find ourselves going to Home Depot like fairly often.
Yeah.
Yeah, like tangential. But when I was buying nuts at my local hardware store, you know those ones that like you pick the ones you want and you write the price on the bag.
Yeah.
The people at the register were like, "You actually wrote the prices? You have no idea how many people come up here with like no price written. They're like, oh, I just bought 4 screws, like as if they're all the same price." Yeah, so that was.
Yeah, I don't like buying screws like that because then I have to not use the self checkout, and I don't have patience for lines. But no, but
yes.
In all reality, like and yeah, a lot of hardware stores have self checkouts. I don't know why, but they do. And those are awesome. But that's way off topic. It's just keep hardware stores in mind because they are the quickest way, unless the hardware store is really far away from your house. And you can just get stuff that you need really quick. And on the topic of PVC, they work well for some spacers. So if you need spacers in a pinch, go buy some PVC pipe. Now getting away from suppliers, we're going to talk a little bit about 80/20 and rev extrusions. So just aluminum extrusions in general. There's a couple others. There's like the Bosch stuff I think some people use. And usually it's just teams that are sponsored by them. But like there's a couple different, brands of, extrusions. A lot of them, everybody except for Rev uses proprietary hardware. So you'll actually have to buy all your hardware from them, and generally they make it really expensive to screw you into buying their hardware over and over again. So they make
Screw you?
God, okay. So yeah, I mean, you gotta be careful with that, but yeah, a lot of times people just standardize on an extrusion. Rev is new, so a lot of teams haven't standardized on it yet. Nick, your team kind of has...
we made ample use of it. Our 2015 elevator was full rev extrusion. Worked great because we actually built it right. Definitely use it for things where you just need a slider and a pinch. Like for an elevator, I think it's great. we had a problem with our intake the first couple times around because so we used rev extrusion. They have these little wheels that go on the top and bottom of it. You've probably seen them like 80/20.
The linear sliders.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not like plastic tabs. They're like rollers.
Yeah.
The problem is we used one on each side, so it kept popping off, and we couldn't fix it without changing the entire mechanism. So we used IGIS sliders instead. Also, the thing I would definitely say about it is don't use it ever if you want something securely held in place. What happened with us was we had a Class A manipulator, so we actually used a Toughbox Nano, and we took out the gears, we drilled holes in it, and had a piece of rev extrusion mounted to the robot that we just kind of slid the gearbox in. On the field, within about 30 seconds, another robot had pushed that off the entire robot, and we were disabled. So do
I feel
not.
your pain.
So battery slide out in 2015. So
just don't ever use that if you want something secure. Use it if you want movement and quickness. Then on top of that, it's very annoying to drill into if you need a hole drilled, because you're kind of going through this weird slot that's not straight. What else do I have problems with rev extrusion? Oh yeah, so the only thing that I really, really, really hate about rev extrusion, if you know how like extrusion is made so you can just slide things into it, you have to use these very specific bolts that only Andy Mark sells.
Well, nuts.
Yeah, nuts. Like I can.
They're 1032 jam nuts.
Yeah, they're like
low profile. So
very.
yeah, Andy Mark.
You cannot.
That's the only place where I was able to find the locking ones.
You can't find them in a hardware store.
Yeah, you can't find the
I
hardware.
find them in my masters, right? But that's because my masters has everything.
Yeah, you might be able to find them. You probably can. Like
yeah.
Andy Mark doesn't produce the nuts, so they bought them somewhere. But I haven't. Probably they probably bought it from McMaster. But I haven't been able to find the lock ones. So I've been able to find the jam nuts that fit in there basically everywhere, except for a local hardware store. But yeah, the jam ones are a little harder to find, but they're probably on McMaster.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Andy Mark page for them right now. They don't actually list the thickness, which is kind of annoying.
I think I found it from just looking at the CAD.
Yeah, if you look at they don't have CAD for it.
The rev extrusion they do.
Oh yes, the rev extrusion.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to like measure them manually. Like they're not expensive. They're $2 for 50.
Yeah, so in a pinch, I've bought hardware from AnyMark a couple times just because we needed it and we were already buying something. But for the most part, it's more expensive because well, they are buying it from somewhere else and they're marking it up.
Yeah. Wait, are you talking about the 1032 Nylock jam nuts?
Yes.
Yes. AM 1211.
Yes. You can buy those at McMaster. We get probably a couple hundred of them every year from McMaster. They're actually, I think, we haven't used the rev extrusion, but they're the same. They're standardized.
Yeah.
Well, no, because the bore is standardized, but the thickness is the problem. I found.
Yeah,
jam nuts are the
McMaster has special thin ones. They have thin Nylocks. I'm pretty sure it's the same ones that AnyMark sells.
Yeah, it probably is.
Because they're two sizes, right? The thick and the thin. We order, I think, about half of the ones they order are thin, but realistically, like most of them use the thin ones.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll check
yeah,
that out.
You can get them from McMaster.
And then also, yeah, rev extrusion is nice. Don't abuse it.
Yeah. It's useful for a lot of stuff. It's really good for rookie teams, just because, especially with like stuff like shooter spacing, you can just slide it over. We use it for prototyping, because we can find out the best spacing for like wheeled shooters really easily because you just have to loosen a couple of bolts and slide something right on the roll.
Use aluminum 1x1 for most applications. We've used it in some other applications where we were once used rev extrusion, and it made our life a million times easier to put things on.
I would say there are times where it's nice, and they'll both probably do the same exact thing for the most part. Really, the biggest issue I've found with rev or any extrusion is that it's a lot heavier than a piece of 1x1.
Mm-hmm.
It helps with twisting. But yeah, I mean, Anand, you want to talk about it at all?
So we 115 used what's called Bosch Rexroth extrusion, which is basically just like rev extrusion / 80/20. That's like a different metric. We used it for 15 years. The last year that we used it was 2013. After that, we haven't used it too much.
Mm-hmm.
Still, though, we use it for prototyping because it's really fast to put together. I think I've seen a couple pictures of 971 using it for their prototyping too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's adjustable too. So if you like want to figure out exactly the right geometry for something, you can make it out of an 80/20 extrusion, and I mean, figure out what the dimensions you want are.
Yeah. So that's
The
kind of what
problem
we
is
do.
the main problem with it is that it's the cross section of it, like the shape of the stuff, is first of all it's square only, so it's got the same strength in both directions, which you may not need, right? And the other thing is that it's not really suited well for twisting. It's suited well for bending in two directions, but not for twisting. I'm not like 100% sure on that, but that's what I've heard some of my mentors say. So,
I
but
know
ultimately, it's very strong.
Yeah,
It
I
ends
know
up being
that
for like 90%.
when Rev did show off their extrusion, like one of the big things that people were like having an issue with is they had corner holes for that you can tap, but that does make it even more prone to torsional twisting and torsional forces, which could mess up your entire mechanism. And also, I think the biggest thing is it doesn't interface with other products or at all half the time. It's not hollow. You would have to drill through it, and it's not fun to drill through either. So it's sometimes bad to interface with stuff like gearboxes. It's not made for things.
The thing that's nice about it, though,
Made
is
to interface with itself.
Yeah.
the geometry is a lot less complicated than Rev Extrusion. Like, if you look at it, it's just a T-slot compared to Rev Extrusion, where it's like this fancy, I don't know what you call it, but it's like a thing.
It's convex. But yeah, the one thing that's nicer about Rev Extrusion, other than all the other ones, is they do have standardized parts for FRC stuff. It's not as expensive as like Vexpro's VersaFrame stuff, but they have like stuff for bearings and they have things for some of the gearboxes and things like that. So that's nice. Let's get off that though, because we are running out of time. So the biggest thing with COTS parts is shipping. So check shipping times. Andy Mark's in Indiana, Vexpro's in Texas, West Coast Products is in California, McMaster has distribution centers everywhere, Automation Direct is in Georgia, I think. I don't really remember. But the bottom line is, that's something, a lot of times they'll show like a little graph of the United States, and they'll have little bubbles of like how long it's going to take. Make sure you know how long it's going to take. You plan your seasons around shipping times, and try to order COTS parts as early as possible so you're not the team that has to build their mechanism on the first day of their competition.
Yeah, and on top of that, the thing about something like AndyMark, they ship 2 days, like, to New York, but the thing is that there's usually a 1 to 2 day lead time. The only way we were able to get our pneumatic upgrade kit beforehand is because we did 1 day shipping, and that actually puts you at the top of the queue. So you kind of got to work around that, like, aside from just the shipping time. So if you're going to order from AndyMark, don't order week 1.
Yeah, so I would just try to order it soon. And yeah, don't forget that these suppliers have, 8 weeks, 10 weeks a year where they're getting hit hard with orders. So stuff's going to be a little slower when they're getting hit with orders, and they can't always predict their delays. So just hope for the best for the most part, and try to order as early as possible. So,
yeah, when you go on a company and you click like, oh, FedEx Ground, and it doesn't really show you how fast it is, and you have to like go on FedEx's website and figure out how far away you are from them and how fast it's going to take and stuff like that.
Yeah. So all right. So we kind of talked about a lot of the suppliers, kind of what they sell. Now we're gonna get a lot more in depth. We're gonna talk about some like gearboxes stuff, motor controllers and coders, motors, wheels, and then we're gonna end it all. But yeah, so this is gonna take a little while. We're gonna go over time. So if you are in a time thing, we can end here. But anyway, let's continue. So the next thing is gearboxes. So the big thing about gearboxes, that a lot of people's questions is, when is custom justified? So Anand and Shaq, you both have designed custom gearboxes, right?
Yeah.
So, and Anand, you have designed a lot of custom gearboxes.
More than me.
How many times do you actually use them on your competition robots?
Once. Wait. We used a custom gearbox once in our 2014 robot, and that one didn't work because that was my first gearbox that I ever designed. And that was it. Unfortunately, being on a team that doesn't have a lot of resources, we don't get a lot of opportunities to use custom gearboxes. But we used 2 gearboxes in 2014. One of them was for moving our intake up and down, and we didn't use enough production on that, but it did work, like as long as you didn't try to control the positioning too accurately. And we used it on the drivetrain. That was one that I designed. The problem was on the output, it had a cantilevered shaft, which like inside the gearbox, which completely screwed it up, and it would disengage gears. It would work sometimes, but the problem was there was like a screw deep inside the gearbox and stuff. Basically, that's one of the major things about custom gearboxes is that if you don't know what you're doing and you haven't tested it too much in the off season, you're gonna have a bad time. There's a lot of stuff to think about when you're designing gearboxes, and a lot of it is like very non obvious.
Yeah, and a lot of the gearboxes on the market nowadays are so optimized. It's like you can't. There's not a lot. There's not a lot you can do with custom to make it better than you can just buy. So
Yeah.
just buy it.
I mean, like,
Yeah, exactly.
sometimes you know you need different reductions, but a lot of the even the custom non-custom gearboxes on the market, they offer different reductions and they offer different places to put gears. There's like really, you know, like you can basically make whatever you want stuff like versaplanetaries, and then there's stuff like crap. What's that one that they sell in Andy Mark that you can just like
Super Shifter?
Tough box?
no you can
Tough box mini?
no it's
Jam?
not
Oh, I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about. I'll look for it. Keep talking.
yeah, so there's that. He'll find it in a second. Where you can kind of do whatever
Modulox?
Modulox, yes.
Modulox, that's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you can do like basically any reduction with that thing. It's a little weird. I've never used one.
Yeah, I don't think anyone has.
Yeah, no, I've seen it a couple times, but
I believe what's it? The R3D 1.0 used it this year for their
Yeah.
intake.
Well, I think they're the ones that make it.
Oh,
Fair point.
So, yeah, and I actually people a lot of times the i3D designs people copy them, and I think that was part of the reason why I saw Modulax a couple times this year. But so clearly it's a good business plan. But anyway, yeah, you can do a lot of reduction with that stuff, but custom is justified when you need odd sizes. You want sims above the drive rails, so like sims facing the same way that your wheels are. So there's no COTS designed solution for that, and I like that a lot. Yeah, so we'll see it probably after this episode. They're gonna be like, yeah, we released one, but no, like I personally, you know, it's a good space saver by throwing your motors above your wheels, and you can't really do that unless you do a custom. Another thing is aesthetics. So if you're like a 254 and you love aesthetics and won't put on a part unless it's powder coated, you probably are using custom gearboxes for other reasons as well. But aesthetics, you know, they play some sort of role. And you know, you shouldn't really do custom gearboxes unless you have the resources for them. So something like a CNC router, a water jet cutter, within, you know, either your shop or like a really good sponsor that you know it's going to get there on time. So yeah, the custom gearboxes can be good, but there's also dangers that are surrounding them.
Next year, because I'm going to college, and the college has laser cutters, I'm actually probably going to be making a lot of custom gearboxes and buying very few like non-custom like COTS things, because when you have like resources like a laser cutter but you have no money, like a college student who has access to a laser cutter, then it makes a lot of sense to use like non-COTS gearboxes and solutions. Like I know
like wooden gearboxes, right?
Yeah, wooden gearboxes. Like Bitbucket's 4183. I know they use all wooden robot, and it looks like so nice. And they've also made a wooden sword drive at one point.
Yeah.
It was I mean, they're one of those teams that has like a lot or like really good like manufacturing resources, and so for them it's even more cost effective just to like make everything on a laser cutter.
Yeah, so I think they have just a really good laser cutter from what I hear, and they just make everything with it.
Yeah.
So
was the 2016 robot wood? I know their 2015 one was, but I cannot tell what their 2016
2016 they didn't make their drivetrain out of wood from what I saw, because they actually did make a drivetrain out of wood, and they broke it on the defenses.
Yeah, their prototype definitely looks like it's out of wood, but like their computational robot looks like metal.
Yeah, no, so they switched over to metal from what I hear. This year just did not work with wood. At least
yeah, like
for
Psycho Rush, you're fine.
Yeah, at least with a drivetrain, you can't really done that with wood. At least, no, you really just didn't want to. So the next thing with gearboxes is, yeah, there's a lot of gearboxes and a lot of ways to get ratios with, you know, COTS ones. You want to buy gearboxes from Andy Mark Vex, Wesco products. You can buy some from the Team 221 website. There's also Banebots. They sell a couple. Their versaplanetaries are actually, not versaplanetaries, their planetary gearboxes are actually pretty nice. And they're a lot tougher than the versaplanetary stuff. So they're also a lot heavier and a lot bigger, but yeah.
The only thing I would say about those Banebots ones is that they don't interface very well with 775 Pros, while the versaplanetaries do.
Or anything half the time. But they're really nice for sims. So if you know, as I'll speak about towards the, you know, way towards the end of the episode is there is the versaplanetary sim adapters are glass-filled nylon. They're plastic. They will crack under some pressure, and there are issues with them. So, being that the BaneBot's P80s are actually the size of Sims, and there is no adapter needed, they are a little tougher in that sense. So
They also have a circular output, so
yeah, so that's the other thing.
you have to adapt them that way.
Yeah, I think
They
the
al-
biggest thing with the BaneBot stuff is like they're a lot older than the Vex Pro stuff. They've been doing it for a lot longer, and they're kind of a weird company in the fact that like they did not sell any big wheels this year. But the bottom line is they are tougher. So
Well, back in I think it was '07 when they first released their smaller planetary gearboxes, there was a lot of issues with them, and from what I can tell, they did clear up like as the years went by. But mostly, I mean, it's hit and miss. Like we've used a couple BaneBots gearboxes in the past, mixed results. So ultimately, if I have to do planetary gearbox again, especially because of the hex shaft output of the burst planetary, I would just go with the burst
So
planetary.
the BaneBots ones came first, so I think that's part of the reason why some people still have the ones. But I like the
Oh.
P80s just because they interface better with Sims. So
Right.
he's talking the P60s.
Yeah,
Yes,
not the
P60s.
P60s.
Yeah,
P60s.
those are a
P80s,
little
I
smaller.
don't know.
Yeah, P80s I've liked.
I think the old one, but I haven't used it.
So the
Well,
next
the
thing.
if the Versaplanetary is too small, it's like if it's too weak, you just put it behind another stage of reduction.
Yeah.
That's-
Yeah.
So I think the trick with those is like with if you're having issues with durability is putting like the smallest reduction last, right? So that something like that, right? So that you want the largest gear size outputting the force. I think that's
Yeah.
Okay, great. So the next thing I don't have it like experience with them. So the 3-sim ball shifters with the small gears and the output teeth.
That was, I think, the main reason people killed those this year was because heavy driving and heavy driving, very small gears on 3-sims, and that over defenses tended to kill some of the 3-sim gear ball shifters. But we've used them in the past and stuff like that. I mean, we haven't had problems with them before.
I
Yeah,
think
West Coast definitely said they were working on fixing those.
Yeah, so they'll probably just make them out
yeah.
of steel and broach the seal. But
Yeah.
If
Or
anything,
they'll have a
maybe-
different solution.
Does any mark sell swap out? I don't remember.
no, so they don't sell. That was a big issue with a lot of teams, and I know that like a couple teams just started mass producing them and giving them to other teams. So you can buy that same gear from AndyMark with a circular shaft hole, and then so people people were doing is they were buying those in bulk, just broaching a bunch and then giving them to teams. So
does AndyMark sell those now?
no, AndyMark still doesn't sell the ones with the hex holes. I'm assuming that West Coast products and Vex are just gonna stock those with steel ones from the start, just to avoid that problem altogether next year. We don't know yet, but I assume they'll at least probably sell steel ones just after that whole. There was a lot of people who broke those.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's probably the biggest difference I'll say with AM gearboxes versus Vex ones is a lot of times the Vex ones use aluminum gears, and a lot of the AM ones are still using all steel gears.
Yeah. All the AndyMark gearboxes are steel or lightened steel, made out of like 4140 or 4130, which is like extremely tough.
Yeah.
Like trying to drill lightning patterns into an AndyMark gear that doesn't have them is going to be an ordeal. It's not going to be easy. Vex Pro, people modify their gears all the time, but it comes with the disadvantage of being made of aluminum. They're weaker than the steel, but they're also lighter. It depends.
They also look very nice.
Yeah, they look really good.
Yeah. So the next thing is the West Coast product Super Shifter. Again, I've never used one, but if anybody here? No.
Wait, single speed or AndyMark Super Shifter?
I messed up there. So we were talking about the West Coast product single speed.
Yeah, we used those this year. I have a gripe. So basically, what we did was we tried to use it has two. Basically, the way it works, it has two different mounting points for the sim. The sim is fixed on one hole with a screw, and it has two possible options for the second hole that lets it change its center distance. This lets you change between 12, 13, 4, or 11, 12, 13, or 14 tooth pinions. So you actually get a pretty wide range of speeds out of just changing the sim gears, right?
Yeah.
The problem with it was that the two holes that it can shift between are very close to each other, such that they actually bleed into each other a little bit. And the problem that we faced this year was when we were tightening down on the sims, what would happen is the force of the screw twisting on the plate would actually force the sims slightly closer together and actually start widening up that gap between the two holes a bit. So what happened is that when we tried running 11 tooth pinions, our drivetrain had so much friction you could not turn it by hand on one side. The other side was still super frictiony. The solution we found for that was just moving the Sims to the inner like hole altogether and just giving up and using like 12 tooth pinions, which worked fine. In the end, actually, that did give us a good speed. But I'm still not sure why they don't offer a completely separate mounting hole pattern, because that problem can be mitigated by using a washer between the screw and the plate. But the fact that happens so easily does kind of scare me off. But it depends. I think your mods may vary. I know a lot of teams have used them with a lot of success.
Yep. All right. So maybe they'll change that. I mean, there's probably a chance that someone from like West Coast Products might watch this, because there are a lot of people. I mean, they are active in the community to an extent. So maybe. The next thing I guess we'll talk about really quickly is simple boxes. People have used those for like really low reduction, and what is that? That basically just turns any motor into a sim output, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
they also
Oh
sell.
no, sim boxes are the Animark gearboxes that accept 2 sims.
Oh
And
yeah.
they have like sim reduction.
The Versaplanetaries, however, they do have a sim output shaft.
Oh yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah. So. Yep, whatever you are. And they do like low reductions. Apparently they mount to 80/20 really easily, so
Yeah, we used them back in 2012 when we still have that robot. It still has the original simple boxes. Still runs great. We use it for demos every year. So except for this year, because this year was like a nice ball game, so we're able to use this robot for demos now.
They're actually called sim aisles.
Oh,
Miles.
wait, no. That's
Simile?
Simile. Those are the ones that
these are different, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
symbol boxes are like 2 sim gearboxes from Animark that have about a 4.2 to 1 reduction. The way we use them was we had a small sprocket on the output of the symbol box that went to a larger sprocket on each wheel.
Yeah, I think I was confusing them with similes as well. So
Yeah.
The sim aisles is ILE.
oh.
No, it's pronounced simile because it's supposed to
It's
be
simile.
like
Oh,
Like
ha
simile,
ha.
you know,
like
a
sim, yeah.
Ha ha.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, it's a good try. But yeah, no, that's what I was talking about. They output to a sim shaft, so you can use it like a sim, any motor. All right, I guess that's kind of cool. It probably is some really specific thing you wanted to use it for. But
Do we have time to go into electrical, or?
Let's just go. So we are over time at this point, but
yeah, officially in post show.
yeah. So we're just gonna finish everything because we think this will probably be used as an after show resource more than a live resource anyway. So. So the next thing we'll talk about is modifying COTS parts. So this is probably something that 254 does a lot. So the really, really good teams, they'll a lot of times not use COTS parts as they were intended to. No one really makes their own gears. Pretty much everybody buys their gears from Animark and Vex. So that's something that no one really does.
The only team that made their own gears was 1717, and that's because their school has like basically like a mill and a lathe for every student. Like really,
Yeah.
like a small tabletop one,
I've
right?
seen it. Yeah,
And
it's
so
crazy.
yeah, they made all custom everything. Oh,
Yeah,
so
and then
crazy.
there's some teams that there's very specific things you sometimes need gears for, like turrets, and then you'll have to make them yourself. I know I've seen a couple teams this year making their own sprockets and
254
gears.
did that with their new fancy
Yeah.
water jet.
Yeah, so you can do that. I thought they made it with their Hasmill, but anyway,
Water jet.
is it water jetted?
That was water jet. It was
Okay.
someone posted about it on Cheap Delphi.
All right. Well, either way, yeah. So once in a while you'll need to make your own gears and stuff, but don't really unless you're, 1717. If you're watching this episode, probably it's not a good idea to make your own gears. But yeah, I think that's something to talk about is modifying COTS parts, and then don't modify pneumatic parts because that's illegal.
Yeah. Sam was actually telling me about this once. There was a team who had painted their entire pneumatic system to look cool.
Yeah.
And it was illegal because doing any kind of surface changes are changing it to fabricated.
Yeah. So don't paint your pneumatic stuff, and use tubing colors that you want, I guess, if you're trying to make it look cool. Like, yeah, I've seen. I always find that actually really weird when teams are using like bright green tubing and their colors are like red. But so.
Oh, like Children of the Swamp. That they always do cool stuff too.
Yeah, but yeah, it's filter as well. But yeah, no. Modifying COTS parts is cool too. So modifying COTS parts makes it not a COTS part. But gears are always COTS. But
Yeah, we buy a COTS part and you take what you want and you just change it to change what you don't want. And
yeah, I think
just find the most efficient way to get what you want.
Yeah, so use it if you can. I think we did that with Nick did that with his gearbox this year. On his intake. So it was originally the Animark intake kit, and then they like zombified it with a Versaplanetary.
Well, it wasn't really zombified. The holes actually are in the same position as what's on the PG-27, so you didn't need to drill anything.
All right. Well, yeah. So, but I think that's a good example of like modifying COTS parts that weren't intended to work together and make them work together.
Yeah.
The next thing, apparently FindRobotsParts.com works really well. I've never used it.
Same here. I might use that next season, but I haven't used it. Onto electrical though.
Power
poles.
Yeah, so power poles are awesome. We used them for everything basically this year, for the first time actually ever. Next year we're gonna color code them, so that'll be fun. Just because I like colors.
Do they have to follow the standardized wiring colors from first?
I don't think so, right? They don't.
Wire colors is not a real thing, is it?
No. The manual
No, it
specifies
is.
what wire colors you can use.
So I believe that except for COTS parts that don't normally have have different colored wires, your wire colors have to be red and black, red and black, right?
Yeah.
Yellow,
They also
red,
allow
green
and white.
Yeah, but they let COTS parts do whatever they want.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's cool. And another thing we're going to talk about quickly is the Navex. So the Navex is a gyro, and it's fantastic if you use it right. There could be issues like there's a couple of things like you have to have the robot on the floor before turning it on with a Navex, because otherwise it'll mess up like the calibration process.
Yeah. Also, don't have some kind of dampening and mount it on a rigid surface. We mounted ours on Lexan this year and tried to use it for PID. And it was absolutely the worst thing I've ever had to deal with. I ended up just scrapping PID because I just didn't even want to fix it. I just gave up.
Yeah, so most of the time people for PID they'll use encoders, but I guess a Navex could work if rigidly mounted enough.
Yeah, people have used it successfully.
Yeah, we used PID on the Navex last year to get turning working, and that did work.
All right,
So
cool. All right, so Nick's gonna talk to everybody a little bit about motor controllers now. So
Motor controllers, awesome. First thing I'm going to say, just because I'm a fanboy, Talon SRXs are awesome. They're expensive, but they're awesome.
They're expensive.
They're expensive, yeah.
Yeah. So they're like $90 a piece. But they use a CAN interface, and for anyone who doesn't know what that is, basically PWM works by sending pulses at different frequencies, and it basically controls the speed like that. CAN is actually a messaging service over wires. So you can do awesome things like set brake mode on. What I did was I had brake mode on for our Autonomous, but our drivers hated brake mode, so I turned it off during teleop. Or for and then any other mode. That's really the only CAN motor controller, I think.
There's crap. What are the really old Jaguars use CAN?
Oh, Jaguars. Okay.
no, Jaguars used CAN. Nobody else did. Okay.
Yeah.
Because Jaguar CAN was not something you wanted to deal with. I think like maybe a few teams had success with it.
I think the only one I've heard is 900. I've only heard of one team that used the Jaguar CAN, and it was 900.
We had Jaguars for years. We used them until 2014,
Yeah,
and
we used a couple in 2014.
Yeah. So
they're huge. They're ugly. They're terrible.
Yeah, but they have the first logo on them, so you got that.
Oh right. Oh, there you go.
Sparks are the new kid on the block. We personally just picked them up this year for prototyping. I know Sam used a couple of them on their robot.
Yeah, we used 4. Well, 3 were used on our robot. We had 1 extra.
Yeah.
They're a little bigger than the SRX's SPs, even SR. They're about the same size as SRs.
They're I think they're 2x3.
But yeah, that's for a good reason, because they actually have limit switch outputs right on them. That was something that I think pretty much lost with the Jaguar. The Jaguar did have that, but yeah. Forget Jaguars.
Talons don't have them, and Victors don't have them.
Well, Talon SRXs have them technically.
SRXs pins. Do. I meant the Talon SRs don't.
The pins have them, but you want to use a breakout board. We tried to get the little pins with whatever. Yeah, we try to solder stuff. No, don't do that. Just use the breakout boards. But Sparks have the limit switch things right on them. They have a pretty accessible brake mode, coast mode thing right on them. But as you talked about earlier, you can't just change that in software because it's using PWM. And if you don't know how PWM works, well, first of all, PWM stands for pulse width modulation, and it's not you can't really communicate over it in a sense. It's more just electronic pulses that deem how fast it goes. And yeah, so it's less advanced. Ken's just more advanced and
it's basically a way of mimicking an analog signal digitally. So if you had a digital operated light switch, that's how it would work. As for Victor SPs, they are more expensive than Sparks, and they're PWM only and no limit switch inputs, but they are really, really small. So if you are not worried about use spaces, I would say use Sparks personally. If you are at all concerned with space, then use Victor SPs. But they're like a solid like 1/8 inch off in each dimension than the SRXs, but they're still really tiny.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing, the reason why we used 4 SPs on a robot this year is because you can get 3 free in the virtual kit, at least this year. So this could change year to year, but at least for 2016, you got 3 free in the virtual kit, opposed to 1 or 2 SRXs free.
It was 4 SPs for free or 2 SRXs, I think.
No, it was 3 SPs. I know that for sure.
3 SPs and 2
It was a
SRX.
large amount.
Yeah.
Let's call it plurality. Okay.
Yeah.
It was over $100 worth.
Yeah, so the reason why we used SPs is just because we got them free. Otherwise, we would have used all Sparks. The biggest thing about Sparks, I don't care about the limit switch. Well, actually, I like the limit switch stuff. The biggest thing for me is that we can actually order them over Amazon. So that's a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. It's a good thing because, well, you can use Prime, and I have Prime. So like you can get it in a day if you want. So that's really awesome. The other good thing, the bad thing rather, is that some school districts don't really let you order from Amazon that easily, so that can be hard. Yeah, so us, we had issues with that. Basically, we had to do like our mentor had to buy it and then get reimbursed. So yeah,
That's how we do all our purchases.
Yeah, we do a lot doing like that. But technically, we weren't supposed to use Amazon, and our ordering department got mad at us for it. So be careful with that.
And then Talon SRs, you can buy them cheap bulk. I mean, like if you buy them from like some team who has them.
Yeah.
I mean,
we'll
we have
trade
a couple.
you SRXs for SRs. So.
Wait. Which way do you want it? Do you want me to give you the SRs? Or do you want to give me the SRXs?
I want to give you my SRs.
Well, if you get one free in the virtual kit, then you might as well. I mean, if you can swap out like an SRX for 2 SRs, then it's better to have 4 SRs and like 2 SRXs maybe.
Yeah. So unless you're a team that like us, we want to use SRXs next year for their encoder usage. So we can use the mag encoders and reverse planetary encoders, but yeah, so most people, unless they're doing that, can just use SRs and have a great time. They're really reliable. People use them forever, basically, for like 2 years, until SRXs and SP. Well, yeah, I guess 2013, 2014, that was like when they were really used like by everyone, right? I think something like that. But SRs are really nice, and we'll trade you some. So yeah, that's basically motor controllers, right? Anything else?
Yeah. So should we go to encoders? Should we go to motors?
We'll go to encoders.
Okay, because I don't know how far over we're gonna go.
Yeah. So we'll go to encoders. Acid. That's all. Or non. That's all you.
Is it acid or acid?
I don't know. It's mostly acid because I thought it was cool when I was spelling it with an S back in like 05 when I was playing RuneScape. That's about it. It's just call me Almond.
Great. Alright.
So there's like a lot of encoders. So the one I'm actually going to start with are the ones from US Digital. Basically, the ones that 115 uses are usually from US Digital. We use the S4s, which are these small shaft-set encoders, very small actually. You can fit them basically anywhere. They're probably the smallest encoder that you can find on the market, to my knowledge. They're good. US Digital encoders are good. They have a lot of different options for them. Most of their products are configurable to use different shaft sizes, have different outputs, like especially different output precisions. The problem with US Digital is that their products are very expensive. Even though we order, I think around 10 encoders at a time, our encoders reach like $50 each. And if you're a team that doesn't have a lot of resources, I would advise you to avoid US Digital and go towards some of the other options. For example, in the AMT103 and the AMT102, super cheap. They're small encoders with a through hole, and they allow you to use a lot of different shaft sizes that goes through the hole. They're super cheap. They're $25 each. They give you 2,048 pulses per evolution, or 512 counts per evolution, which is good for almost anything that you want to do. The only thing that you can't really do with it is control like maybe a very large arm with PID, and even then, I mean, you might be able to be okay. They're really tolerant. The times that I've used them, I've mounted them. The way I've mounted them is they have a special collet that goes on the shaft. Stick the collet on the shaft, put the encoder around it, and I just use wood screws to attach to whatever, like the wood that the shaft was in. It was super easy.
Where do you buy those? DigiKey?
DigiKey, yeah. So if you just look up AMT103 or AMT102 on DigiKey, you can find it. Also, DigiKey has quantity discounts. So if you buy like 25 or 10 or whatever, they will give you a better price.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. It's For 1, it's 2363, but for 10, it's 2283.
There you go. See, that's like it's unbeatable, honestly.
Yeah, that's really cheap for encoders.
But if you're looking to spend more money for the features, there's a lot of other options.
Definitely.
Oh right, other thing. You can make this the sim coder, the one that was a 3D printed version that was on Cheap Delphi a while ago. You can make those using an AMT103. So if you have them, I mean, multi-purpose. It's like an encoder that basically mounts directly to the face of the sim.
On side note, the person that actually designed the sim coder is a member of F4.
So, yeah, what's it? Munchko from Team 9S. He's also active on Cheap.
Yeah.
So let's see. A couple other encoders. The ones that are more specific to FRC are the Versaplanetary encoder and the Crossroad Electronics SRX magnetic encoder.
Yeah.
I'll talk about the latter first because I was actually in the Versaplanetary encoder. So the SRX magnetic encoder uses a very small magnet that's polarized across its diameter, and it detects the rotation of the magnet as it turns. It offers 2 high-precision outputs, twice the precision of an AMT102 or 103, so it's suitable for basically every application. They also have the output can also connect directly to a Talon SRX, so you can use the PID on there. So if you get maybe a couple SRXs from the kit and you want to look into getting into PID, a great way to do it is to use the SRX magnetic encoder and just connect it directly. It saves you like a lot of time.
Yeah, and they
you do need a lathe for those though.
Not technically.
It depends.
Not really.
It depends. A lathe really helps when you're using them because in order to mount the magnet, you do need to mount them somewhat concentric to where you're supposed to do it. But that being said, you can get away with just gluing a magnet on the end of a shaft if you're confident that you can get it within a few thousand, not a few thousand, like a couple hundredths of an inch.
You could
it's not terribly difficult,
you could do
but
that
it's
with a mill. You could do that. You could at least drill the hole with the mill. You can't turn down. So they want you to turn down the shaft.
You can do it with the mill. What you'd have to do is you'd have to stick the shaft upright in a vise and then use a thing called an indicator to find the center of it. But at that point, I would recommend just using an AMT encoder or using something else. The thing about the magnetic encoder, though, is that it is kind of tolerant to where the magnet is, so it doesn't matter.
And they're really nice. Yeah. They're small. And they're not mechanical, so they're less prone to breaking.
Oh yeah. So it's contactless because the magnet is away from the encoder casing. They don't even touch, so you can do basically whatever you want to the shaft. If your robot rips itself apart, the magnetic encoder will probably be okay, which is nice. The Versaplanetary encoder is an encoder that it's basically an encoder stage for the Versaplanetary. I know teams were asking for that for a long time, and it's fantastic. Yeah. We used 2 of them on our shooters this year, connected directly to 775 Pros. Great stuff. Basically, we ran 775 Pros at 15,000 RPM, or 70%-ish, or is that 13,000 RPM? Sorry, 70%, and used the Talon SRX PID controller for it. Worked great. That's about it. Basically, the Versaplanetary encoder is the SRX magnetic encoder, just attached to a Versaplanetary stage.
And I think the only other thing that we missed was the sim coders from AndyMark.
Yeah, don't buy those. They're overpriced, in my opinion at least. They're annoying. This part isn't as big of an issue as the rest of it, but the way you assemble is you put this little disc on your sim, and it has the teeniest Allen key ever. We had to buy a new set just to have that one key. But that isn't my problem with it. My problem with them is that we had 4 on our drivetrain, and 3 of them broke.
And with $42 each, that's kind of annoying.
Yeah, we bought 6 of them, and we ended up using 5 of them, and it wasn't fun. And also, another mistake we made with them, which I would just want to make sure everyone gets out of the way, don't put your sim gears on first. We made that mistake, and we didn't have the time to take those sim gears off because it was too much of a hassle. We just used fresh sims from a box. So just make sure you do that first if you're going to use them. Also, the E4T OEM optical encoders. AndyMark sells them, and they don't really say they work with the Toughbox Nano, but they really, really look like they do. They work with the Toughbox. They have these little holes in the right place, but they're not threaded, and they're too small for the screws they give you, and there's no drill bit, really, that's going to help you out. It's such a tiny screw. It's like those little things you find in, plastic toys. And so, it's at that point, it's not worth it. You really want to get a better encoding method using Toughbox minis.
But what do you mean you can't? You didn't have time to get the pinion off the
okay, I'll explain.
Gear off the sim.
Yeah.
Okay, this was my first year ever doing mechanical, and so I asked our coach how you get sim gears off, and he said you don't. And so I didn't realize you can just take a little screwdriver and get the retaining
Right,
clip off.
yeah.
Oh no, it's not that easy. I'm sorry. Well, okay,
It
it depends.
is.
Maybe you've had success with that, but the way we get it off is we get 2 unlucky rookies, and we have them take like kind of pliers or vice grips, and we have them kind of wiggle the like little ring thing that goes on the sim shaft off. It usually takes between 15 to 30 minutes per sim.
I use a Wago tool. I've had success with a Wago tool, and so yeah, so a Wago.
If you don't care about the little retaining ring, you could just cut it off with the wire cutter.
No, just use it. I swear, just
We
use a
use
little
it
we
for
can
flathead
cut off the
screwdriver, bend it up slightly, and it slides right off. And then all you have to do is rebend it, like with like
What?
your hands, and you're fine.
What? Okay, well, I guess if any of my team members are watching right now, lessons learned. We can do that.
You can just cut them off.
But the unlucky
it's that
freshman,
bad.
right?
But what if you? Okay, here's why you don't just cut them off. What if you don't have any more?
Well, okay, that's a fair point. We actually
Sure.
have like baggies of them just kind of
Yeah.
lying around the shop. Like
Yeah,
generally,
we
if
have a lot of
if
them.
we need one, we'll like kind of like scour the floor for a couple minutes and there'll be one there. Okay, because we have
Somebody
like
packs up
Sims
100 for my
hit
masters.
We'll get another unlucky freshman, and we'll have them go around the
Yeah,
room.
They're actually going to use a mill to cut one. That's what they're going to do.
yeah. We tried cutting ours off, but we didn't have a lot of success. We'll have to try with different like larger pliers. Or
I think it comes down to how like flush you put them down to your gear, if you can cut them off. But yeah, I've had success with the screwdriver, Wago tool method, whatever. The Wago screwdriver, whatever hell you want to call it. Just I've liked that quite a bit. Tiny little screwdrivers work. And yeah, now we're gonna go into motors. So, Chak, that's all you.
Huh? What the hell?
Chat.
Chak.
Motors.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of motors that are like good for really low resource teams if you could get them free, like some of the motors that come with the KOP, like the automotive motors and like the window motors, and
They don't use those.
yeah, they're not that
Those
good.
It depends. Those are good if you don't have the money.
A
For
A
sure.
lot of them don't backdrive as well, so that might be good for some applications. I know that team. What's the name of the team? Oh crap!
I don't
we
know
have,
the
we
name
have
of the
two
team,
members from the team. God, the Australian IFI team. God, why
Well,
is
there's
it
a team
escaping me now?
I don't
Red.
know if this is the same team you're thinking of, but there's a team that says something called the Red Box, which is like
That's what I'm talking
yes.
about. Yeah.
gearbox made for these. Let me see if I can find them.
Whatever those really weird. I think they're called Denso motors that come in the kit apart every year, and we have like 100 of them, and we've never used one. Those.
4613 Barker Redbacks makes these
Yeah.
red box that uses the throttle motors or like the Denso
Yeah,
motors.
something like that. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
yes, if you're low resource, they're good, but they're so low power that
It depends.
if you have like $20 to buy a motor, just buy a motor.
But if
Yeah,
you don't
like,
have that
honestly, you can
$20,
buy
I think
Sims.
they make 3D. It's like they make it so you can 3D print it, which is really nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
there
just-
was a thread on Chief like in the past summer. For some reason, people just got really interested in these motors. There's at least like 1 or 2 gearboxes that people have designed. Yeah,
Yeah.
the one from 4613 is like definitely. I think that was the one that I saw last year. But that is good if you have a lot of
Yes,
them because everyone
Sam,
has
if
a
you
lot
want to
of
put these up on the stream, they look really weird.
Yeah.
They are good.
I know. I think the person that designed it is on F4, Alistair. So to find it really quick.
I just sent you a link in Skype.
Oh yeah, I can't open Skype.
them. Post that.
Here, I'll
can you
send you
post
in
that
Slack.
in the?
No, I got it. I found it. So yeah, I'll just open it up real quick. Oh yeah, they do look really weird. I think that's Lexan, right? Is that plastic? Or...
I mean, you can 3D print them apparently, so there's that.
yeah, so I can add it really quick just to show everyone. What page
Here, I'm looking up the
URL.
specs of these motors. I'm really curious now.
Motors.next.com.
It's stall current. You have 5,300 RPM. What's the stall torque?
Yeah, so I could just
Basically,
open-
this small. I think the maximum output power that they have is about 20 watts.
So,
So
yeah,
don't expect to get too much use out of them beyond
18.
like very small applications.
yeah, so I
18
guess
there.
you could do that. Apparently, they're manufactured with 3mm thick clear Lexan on a CNC mill. So you can you can get it from them. You could probably make this with any router, any water jet.
If you have a router, I think
If you have a router,
making these is the least of your problems.
True.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes teams have
Wait,
routers.
let's get off these things.
Oh,
Let's
yeah,
just
let's-
agree that
yeah, this-
we're not
Okay, so I guess like the second power tier of motors is like the RS 775, the RS 550s, the AM 9050s. So those are kind of like mid tier power, I guess. They have like 100, 200 watts or 100 watts.
I think they're definitely good if you want something with high torque, especially with Animark's
High
PG
torque, you mean
gearboxes.
high speed? I don't think I would put too much high torque on those little motors, right?
I would. I mean, like the
No,
gearboxes.
if you put it through the PG27 or PG71, then you do get a lot of torque out of those because those motors only go at like 120 RPM. The gearboxes, when they have the motor in them, only go around 120 RPM, so you get like a lot of torque out of them.
They're really generally very fast, really small. They're good for like a lot of applications.
Yeah.
They're good for like if you already have them, and it's kind of cheaper. But like most of the time, I would just go towards the really really powerful motors: the Sim, the Mini Sim, and the 775 Pro. Those are the three that those are the kind of the most powerful ones, and just use those if you have
Where would
the
you put
money and
snowblower
resources
motors in this?
to do it.
I think we're just chalking up snowblower motors as automotive motors.
Yeah. Okay. No, I mean, there's something Animark sells here. Oh, I don't know. Just looking at them.
All right. Well, so yeah, I think then you could talk about the Mini Sim, the Sim 775 Pro.
The Sim is like it's the strongest motor you can get. It has high torque. It's huge. It can stall for long periods of time without dying. And the 775 Pro is like about the same amount of power, but it's smaller. It's lighter, but also dies faster under small torque. So those two are like the most powerful motors you can get, and whenever you can get more power, just get more power.
So Sim motors are the only ones with actual restrictions on how many you can use for good reasons. So
a robot can't physically handle them.
Yeah. So
which is the only reason you use mini sims because you run out of sims.
Yeah, basically. So you can only use 6 sims. At least that's been the rule for a couple years now. And yeah, a lot of times people are just like, oh, mini sims because we ran out of sims, but they are a little lower power.
2/3. Yep.
Yeah, 2/3 power. They're a lot smaller, so they're like almost half the size.
Yeah, that's why we use them.
They're shorter. They're not.
Yeah,
the diameter is the same. They're shorter.
They interface exactly the same.
So you can they're supposed to be drop-in replacements, and they work that way sometimes.
Yeah. So I know sometimes people even on their gearboxes, they'll actually have a sim and a mini sim next to it, for lower power applications. So yep.
Yeah. And then the 775 Pro, that's there. Oh, bag motors.
Yeah. So bag motors. Should we have the controversy over whether it's stronger than a 775 Pro?
It's not, but like it's a steel motor, so I would expect it to last longer under stall.
Well, okay. The way I look at it is, if you stall a bag motor, you're putting in 40 amps into it. When you stall a 775 Pro, you're putting in 130. So, I mean, but the thing is, though, the heat capacity of a motor before it dies is like a function of how much mass it has. The way I look at it, 775 Pro and the bag motor have the same mass. The only difference is the 775 Pro has a higher current capacity. So if you stall 775 Pro, you're putting in 130 amps. If you stall a bag motor, you're only putting in 40. So technically, the bag motor lasts longer at stall, but in practice, if you run a 775 Pro at 40 amps and a bag at 40 amps, the 775 Pro is going to last longer.
Yeah, bags have like basically the same free speed, off by about 600 RPM. And like
it's not basically the same.
Yeah, no,
when
very,
you're
very
at
different.
this order of magnitude, I call it basically the same.
It's half as much.
No, it's not half as much. Oh wait, sorry, I missed the first number.
Bag 19 for the 775 Pro.
Yeah, so 775s are a lot faster. They're also open. They're not sealed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're
Also,
different.
yeah, don't smash them with a hammer.
Bags look really cool, but so do 775 Pros actually. They're really
775 Pros look really nice compared to what they have on the Vex website.
Yeah, they're really shiny and stuff.
Really shiny.
It's also a weird point that 775 Pros are allowed and bag motors are quieter. So if you care about that, then
Yeah, that is true. Oh, another thing I would say is a pretty big deal, especially if you don't have a lot of soldering resources, is the 775 Pros don't have wires attached to them already, and bags do.
Yeah, you gotta get one of those crimp connectors that go on the end of these things, and then crimp them, and then solder them, and then put heat shrink over them. It's not very hard to do, but the hardest part by far is getting those little crimp things to stay on.
oh, Nick, there's a thing. I got a thing for you. You know the little holes on the 775 Pro?
Yeah.
You can get connectors with holes in them and
can
put number 0 bolts through them.
Yeah, so you can use the screw terminal things. Yeah, I've done that too.
So they're not screw terminals. Jack's talking about number 0. So there's like those little tabs that come out the back of the motor.
Yeah,
and they have a little slot in them.
Oh, really?
And this guy used number 0 screws, like glasses screws, to attach like the wires. It was like really bad to look at, but it worked. So I don't know.
Okay,
It's
no, yeah,
never
we're-
gonna come up. It's a
Of
screw.
that.
It has a nut on it.
Okay, well, I guess we're not talking about the same thing, but apparently you can use really, really tiny screws.
Like, okay, Sam, look at the back of a
I'll do
775
that
Pro.
real quick.
Can
like-
you pull up a picture and put it on the stream?
Yeah,
Just,
yeah.
Take a 75 Pro.
Yeah,
like,
I
So
totally
you can
do
find a
that.
picture of the back.
I'm gonna find a picture that's just as shiny.
Oh,
there we
you're
go.
not gonna do what the one from the Vex website?
Is it as shiny?
It's shiny, but it's not as shiny.
Okay, you know what? I'll just do this one.
However, if you're using the crimp method that Nick was talking about, somebody designed a 775 Pro shield that actually that goes over the crimps and like zip ties onto the motor, so it actually keeps the crimps in. We tried using that, but our crimps were actually a slightly different size, so it didn't work. But it might work for you. So
Is
those
that
are good
this
things.
one?
I just put it on the stream. So yeah, those are the little 3D printed cap things are really cool, and they also help you wire manage. So that's awesome too.
I want to use those, man. But yeah, what Jack is talking about, you see those little gold tabs on the left there? On the right?
Yes.
Yeah. He's putting something through there.
Yeah, so that
screw.
would that not be called a screw terminal?
No, because screw terminals are those
No.
things you crimp on.
Oh, I'm thinking
These terminals are like these things that like have like a little plate that moves up and down on them, and you screw down, and
Okay.
the plate like that's the wire.
like the ones that some people use for batteries. Right?
Or what you have on the
Uh,
Roborio.
The
I'm-
Roborio's a little. I don't call those screw terminals either. They're like
what I was talking about is the ones that you put on
Wait,
like motor
Roborio-
controllers,
Yeah,
like
those
the
are. Oh, those are ring terminals.
ring terminals. You can use those for 775s, right?
Well, yeah, no, you need the you need the female end because I can't remember what they're called. They're like called quick release or something, but they actually fit perfectly over the thing.
All
The
right. Well, either way, I guess you could use Shaq's weird method, or you could just do the thing everyone else does.
well, I mean, people have different methods. I think Chat's method is like unique, but the one that I've seen a lot of people do is just soldering, like
Yeah.
no crimping or anything. And I'm actually leaning towards just soldering the connections. I think my team kind of wants to do that next year
I feel like they
because
rip
we had
off.
a lot of people falling off.
Yeah. So
What?
we did both.
That would just
we,
rip off.
No, and not if you solder it well, it won't.
Well, no, but
Well-
just solder it.
Okay, ideally, what you do is you just solder it, then you use a strain relief on the wire, so that way it doesn't. There's no pulling force on there.
Yeah.
The thing is that the crimp itself, if it's not made like right, you have to like squeeze it with pliers so it gets a little bit tighter, or loosen them up by
Exactly.
putting pliers inside. That sucks. So I mean, it really varies. Even with the strain relief, I don't really like the crimps. It depends on who's crimping. You know. What I
We
mean?
did both. So what we did is we used crimps and then we soldered the crimps on the motor. That way it was like two things of security and it was a little easier to solder.
And you put
So-
heat shrink over that, then you're good.
Yeah, and then we put heat shrink
The
over
only
that.
thing you really want to make sure of, and I made this mistake, make sure you use the right sized crimp terminals. Don't just use blue with 10 gauge wire in a pinch. Don't just cut threads off your wire. Like, use the yellow ones.
The yellow is it standard?
Like they're rated by color. Like the yellow
Okay.
is the largest, blue is the next, red's the smallest.
Right.
It's like the ones you would use with a 775 Pro are yellow. Or
Alright,
the
well, we have like 100 of the ones that not 100, like 100,000 of the ones that you can use with 770 Pros. So if you have any issues, just email me and I'll just ship you a bag. We also have
4 to
we also
20
have a
while you're at
couple-
it.
We also have a couple 100,000 quarter 20 bolts. So if you need those, we'll throw you some over.
Yeah, we
Oh,
should have an F4 raffle of just quarter 20.
Yeah, we can. Our team can.
Wait,
handle
I can
it.
throw in M6s.
Okay.
We have several hundred M6s.
Awesome.
What?
Why?
Are they colored, or did you just get them confused with quarter 20s all the time?
I think Sam ordered them off Alibaba or something sketchy.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'll send you over
Alright.
a few bags. Bags of what? We gotta specify. All right, so I guess that's kind of it for motors. On the same topic, there's servos, so you can use basically any servo, right? Up to certain
There's a power limit in the manual.
Yeah, so there's a power limit in the manual, but you can use most servos. The rev ones are really nice because they're programmable, so you can make them run like regular motors. You can run like normal servos that actually have like stop points.
I think the Rev is the most powerful one on.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
those are really nice.
And you can also change where they stop. So they have like an extra little programming thing. You can program the servo, and then
Yeah.
you plug it in, and yeah, those are really cool.
You can also use PID for that because a lot of them have encoders built in.
Yeah,
The way
man.
are we talking about like little hobby servos?
No, we're talking about like the they're called like Pro servos or something from Rev.
Yeah. You can buy
Um,
it from Andy Mark.
the Rev Smart servos is what they're
Yeah.
called. They're $30 a piece.
We broke
And
one
Oh,
this
those.
year.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, we broke 3 this year.
yeah, I want one of those. But I'm gonna buy
Yeah,
those.
we can't send you over any of those because all of them are broken.
Well, you can, just I won't find any use in them.
But you
Okay.
broke them?
We broke them, a lot of them. But
I
yeah,
mean-
Who are you using them for?
an indexer for the shooter, and
Oh, no,
balls
yeah.
would fly back because our intake was like very powerful and just break the thread. So if the what they call it, the servo wasn't backwards, like facing the back, and we didn't have the programmer yet, so we couldn't make it so it automatically would go to the back. It would fly right into the arm, or say like someone would throw a ball and it would go past where we wanted it to. We didn't have a hard stop, so yeah, it would run. The ball would just go full speed into the servo, and it would break the little inside tabs of the plastic.
So it's
Yeah,
not the
the-
servo's fault, okay.
The stall torque is like 13.5 kilogram centimeters.
Yeah, so we broke servos, and they'd make this really sad squeak noise, and we'd be like, oh, we broke another. Servos sound so cute,
Don't tell us anymore.
Okay. Anyway, so
There's some...
yeah, I guess that's it for motors/servos. And we'll get into wheels. So there's a lot of options for FRC wheels that are made for FRC, and then a lot of options for other stuff. So this year, I probably more of most years where you saw a lot of people not use COTS wheels, at least on their drivetrain.
That's only because pneumatic wheels are out of stock everywhere.
that and yeah, so people use like mountain board wheels a lot, but
Yeah.
a lot of I saw a couple people use like bicycle wheels.
Did you see
We
those
saw
really
a
cool
team
tri
that used
wheels?
Oh yeah, a couple teams
Yeah.
use that.
Yeah, I wish those were more successful because the team that had those did not make it past elims, and I was so sad.
Yeah, so there was a lot of weird drivetrains this year, and some wheels that were custom. So basically, you can use most wheels, you just have to make a hub for them, so they like interface well, and they're kind of annoying. But so there are a lot of options. This is an episode about COTS, not about wheels. So we're going to talk about what you can get on the market for wheels. The first one that everyone has like thousands of basically is high grip wheels from AndyMark. So those they have blue ones, they have white ones, and they have those weird little stepped like
The black
tread.
ones, right?
Do they have black ones too? I don't even know. But
They're like black and white. They're like Oreos.
yeah, the hub's black and whatever, and the tread's white. But yeah, they have like stepped tread, and they're pretty grippy. They're not as grippy as Coulson's or Banebot Stealths or even the Stealth wheels that AndyMark now sells. But they're really cheap, and you probably have a bunch. We have a bunch. They come with the kit parts chassis every year.
Actually, this year they made sure to put them up to 6-inch rather than 4-inch like they normally are.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I'd really say about them is make sure you keep them clean because after a season they get nasty.
And we wore down the tread. They do wear down, and they're not as tough as something like Coulson's, but they work. I've only seen a couple break, so yeah, they work pretty well. The next one, so right now you can actually buy them in bigger sizes. So that's the Banebot Stealth. So you can't buy anything above like 3 inches, right? 3 7/8 I think is the biggest size that they have available right now.
Yeah. Right now they don't have the 3 7/8. I think do they have 3 7/8 right now, or just the 2 7/8?
It might be 2 7/8.
Let me look.
In any case, it's small.
Yeah, no,
They offer a bunch of durometers. So that's nice.
So yeah, they
Oh,
offer.
yeah, they only have 2 7/8. They only have it like basically
Okay.
3-inch now.
Yeah, so they have very small wheels right now, Banebots only, but they are really grippy. The durometer is really low. They
30
also
to
wear
50.
down really quickly. Like I know 11-14 used them on their intake last year, and they replaced their intake like a couple times per competition. So
Yeah, there were
that's the
some
thing.
teams that actually combined these wheels for better gripping. Like they use the orange and green ones.
I've seen that, and I've also seen people stack them, like a bunch of them. So they're also pretty thin. So a lot of times people use more than one on one side. At least, yeah.
They're real nice.
I believe one team, multiple teams, use in excess of a couple hundred wheels of Banebots this year.
Yeah.
The small orange ones. I remember one team had basically like their intake bar was literally just like 50 Banebots wheels, just end to end.
Yeah.
I could not understand spending that much money on intake wheels, but
Well,
I mean,
the thing about the Banebots wheels is they're also really cheap.
Yeah, they're $275 for one, and they have bulk discounts. You can get 50 for $225 a piece, which is $112.
So that's not bad. 50 of them. I mean, that's probably what they paid. I guess it's all right. I mean, I also saw some people do the same thing with the Andy Mark traction wheels. So like the Andy Mark stealth wheels. So basically, right now, Banemots doesn't sell their. I think they call them V81s or something like that. The bigger wheels, which kind of sucks. Apparently they're gonna sell them for next season. So if you're watching this in the future, check. I really love those wheels a lot. They also like are really cool because they offer different hubs that you like slide into the wheel. So you can use like hex. You can use like normal, circular, whatever, and they have like a bunch of different hubs, so that's really cool. And they're basically the grippiest wheels on the market, but again, they wear down really quickly, and you can't buy them right now.
Yeah.
So
Wait,
then,
you can't buy Banebots ones? They're in stock.
not the big ones.
Oh, not the big ones. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So anything, I mean, 3-inch wheels are really tiny. We actually originally our intake was actually a bunch of stepped Banebots wheels, so we had like the 2 7/8 and like the 1 7/8 and then like the 1-inch, like. To grip the ball better, so you can do that with those wheels. They have a lot of different sizes, a lot of different durometers or like grippiness available. So yeah, Banebots wheels are awesome. Hopefully they're in stock. The next thing is plaction wheels, so that's plastic and traction. They're really nice for drivetrains where durability isn't much of a concern. And yeah, like 2012 to 2015, a lot of people used them.
Guys, I'm gonna have to tune out. We have a dinner reservation at 7 o'clock, so I'll see you guys later. Pleasure being on the show.
Yeah.
All right, that's fine. Hopefully, okay. He didn't break anything too much.
We can get someone in here maybe.
We'll just continue. This is the last thing we have, so wheels is last.
It's an hour, 40 minutes.
Yeah, we've been doing this for a while. So yeah, plaction wheels are really nice for durability. It's not much of a concern. The next thing is AM performance wheels. So basically they're metal wheels. They're really tough.
Aluminum.
They're aluminum. Oh yeah. I guess that's kind of obvious. Oh
Yeah.
god. Okay,
You also
so-
have to put the traction on
so
yourself.
camera's really messed up, so I'm just gonna go to Sam. I'm gonna be the only one talking. Well, I guess I'm the only one talking, basically. So, the next treads can be swapped out. 115 apparently still has ones from years ago. I don't know. He's not here anymore. They don't die, yeah. So, and performance wheels are really nice. They don't have tread already on them, so you gotta factor in that in the price. Is that you actually have to buy tread after the fact. But that's also really nice for like changing stuff. Yeah, you can add like blue nitrile, which is really cool. Apparently tan nitrile is slightly better. Apparently more grippy, less durable. I think that was the consensus with them. They have like the pebble top stuff. You can do a lot of stuff with those wheels. The next thing is what happened?
What was I gonna say?
Maybe about the nitriles.
Oh, you know how they have this new thing, or like a couple years ago, 2014, I think they created a new way of mounting tread that was like you wrap it around and you zip tie it around the middle. That didn't work too well for us. Just drill holes in the wheel and rivet it.
Yeah, so that's what I've always seen is just riveted ones, and I think that's easiest. The next thing is so the thing about those wheels is they're really tough, they're really awesome, they're really versatile, but they also are really expensive. So yeah.
$24.
I mean, compared to like a stealth wheel, that's like a difference of $20. So yeah. And then that's tread too. So it can get expensive, but they're really tough. They're nice looking too. They look really sweet.
Colsons are also.
That's one of the only ways to get blue nitrile, which is kind of agreed upon as the best tread on carpet.
Yeah. So.
Which one's pebble top?
Blue nitrile.
Okay, yeah.
It also smells really good, so that's cool.
Well.
The next thing is Omnis. So what's really nice about Omnis is they have zero turn scrub. They can be used for holonomic drivetrains, which a bunch of people don't like. But they have like no pushing power in perpendicular directions because they can roll. They're really good for corners of chassis where center drop is not sufficient. So this could be like because of a poor design choice or just your design choice at all. I've also seen them use completely like all Omni wheels that are just for like really cool sliding drivetrains. They drive really cool. They're really fun to drive, but they might not be the best for performance because you can get pushed around a lot. Next thing is Vex Pro treaded wheels. So I guess this is treaded wheel. Is this like the stealth wheels? Or
They're like Vex's Plactions. They're weird.
Okay, so I don't really know anything about these. Apparently they're alternate to AM performance. They only offer a few treads and they're variable width.
They use their own tread, which is weird.
It's like before they started integrating
that
everything.
weird yellow tread stuff, right?
No, it's gray.
I'll
I'll get you a picture.
It's like a gray tire or something.
I guess I can look it up.
Yeah, like if you Yeah, they also have Versa wheels, which are basically the same thing. Just like they're compatible with Versa keys.
Oh, this is from Vector. I don't know why I was thinking Andy Mark. Okay, let me look at this. Oh, yes, I've seen these things. So yeah, these. Oh yeah, what the heck is going on here? So does anybody here have experience with them?
Uh,
No. I'm pretty sure they work, but they're just not very compatible with.
no, actually, they're
everything
square
else.
and they don't turn.
Okay, well they can stack. It looks like, so you can add like more
Yeah.
hubs and more discs.
Yeah, and they
It
also
looks
have
like-
these things called Versa wheels, which are like the same thing, but like you can just swap out the tread. And they also have Versa keys built in.
All right, well.
Are you
I
talking
guess-
about the Versa wheel that's just hard plastic?
Yes.
That's a thing too.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, Vex has like 8 things that are wheels, and
all right. Well, this is definitely an alternative. I don't know really why you'd want it, but it's something.
I mean,
works.
we almost bought them for our intake when we were having troubles with it, because everything was out of stock everywhere.
All right. The next thing is mechanums. So mechanums are a little weird.
Mechanum, I'm sorry.
Mechanum is is that the correct way to say it, or
Um,
is that
it-
another way to say it?
It's
Mechanum.
Mechanum.
It's Mechanum.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna call it mechanum.
Well,
And I'm the man talking about wheels, and I can do what
It's
I want.
to the 3, man. It's
Yeah,
to the 1.
It's 2-1. The board has voted, and you lose. So
Banana.
mechanums apparently have regular pushing power in the forward direction, but roller material is less grippy than treaded wheels. Sideways pushing power is reduced to the square root of 2 divided by 2.
Yeah, come on, the sine or cosine of 45 degrees. Come on, this is basic trig.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't do that well. They forward pushing power are about 71%. I don't know. There's some paper I can put down in the description from Ether. And apparently only Ether truly understands mechanism wheels, according to Acid. So if you want to fight him on that, that's fine. We're not going to stop him. So what you could use mechanisms, obviously, as wheels. You can have 4. They have to be pointed in specific directions. They have to make an X. So the wheels have to make an X.
Well, they either make an X or they make like a circle shape.
Yeah, you don't want that.
I think the X looks cooler. So.
Well, no, the X is what you need, isn't it?
You could do the circle too. I mean,
No, I thought the
Both
circle
works
was what
theoretically,
you
right?
don't want to do.
they both work fine.
They
right?
do?
Yeah.
No, I remember
As long
reading
as
a
you-
manual for them once, and like they say, make sure it's the X, not
Yeah,
the.
I think you can do the circle, and the same thing will happen, but it's just they have to be going the same way. You have to be doing the X, or you have to be doing the circle. You have to choose, right?
Let me see if I can find.
I don't know. Just do the X, okay? Just because that's what I've done, and it worked. The next thing is they provide really cool intake applications. So they have rollers that are angled in a direction, so they can help with bringing the wheel, the game piece, like a ball,
It's what you did.
Yeah, towards the middle. And they could actually see even cooler ones, and that's like the one that 179 did, where they actually used the mechanism wheels to bring the bins up and down. So that's really cool. I'll link that video.
Right, because it provides a force in like diagonally. Part of the
Yeah.
force is parallel to the axle, so you can do weird things with that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you could do cool stuff.
Yeah,
The next
cool, but they have no
thing,
pushing
the
power.
next wheels, I love these wheels. Like, I love them, and that's Coulson wheels. The reason why I love them is, well, they're really strong. I love these for demo bots because they don't really break that often, and they're really grippy on all floor materials, or 99%. So like, a lot of the other materials are really great on carpet, especially mechanisms. When you take them like outside or like on a different material, they'll just not work as intended. Whereas Coulson's are not made for FRC, really at all. In fact, I think Vex Pro actually is the only people that make the hubs for them. People used to make them custom before that. So Coulson wheels they make casters. They make them for really industrial applications. They're really reliable. They're really strong. They're heavy. You need to use the custom hub or a Vex one. They're really good traction, and it gets traction on hard surfaces, and they just last forever. So Coulson's are awesome. A lot of people use them, and
Yes.
they're pretty grippy. They're really durable.
Yeah, Sam, there's a team I'm thinking of. They're the Long Island team that's really known for defense.
271.
371 or 271?
It's 271. The Mechanical Marauders, they use like 50 of them this year.
Yeah. So they, aside from using a bunch of them, what they actually did which is really cool. This is an testament to how durable they are. They used a lathe to cut their diameter about in half. It's like they took a cutting tool and they just half it. It was great. But they used them for everything. It was really nice.
Yeah, so they like them a lot, and yeah, they're cool.
Some people cut like diamond patterns into like the wheel tread to make it more grippy.
Yeah, so I've
I
seen
don't know
that
if that
they'll
would
use
work.
like, I think they use like a bandsaw or like a table saw.
Bandsaw.
Yeah, so you can use it.
I saw.
Yeah, it's kind of sketchy though. I think people make like little jigs to do them. So yeah, that's cool. The last wheel type that we're going to talk about today is pneumatic wheels. So there's a lot of options for pneumatic wheels. You can go from like stuff for like scooters. You can do stuff for RC cars. You can do stuff for, I guess,
Beach
wheelchairs,
tires?
mountain boards. There's a lot of options. The ones that West Coast Product sells are mountain board wheels technically, except they have hubs that fit FRC stuff. And the ones that Andy Mark sells are ones for electric wheelchairs. So although they have COTS hubs, they're not really made by them. So just kind of good to know. So they're really good with friction. They're high durability. They're really good for obstacles, which is why like 80% of teams this year use them. Not 80%, but 80% of the teams with wheels use pneumatic wheels this year. Don't quote me on that.
You're gonna need to make sure you have a center drop on these because otherwise, you're gonna drain your battery like crazy when you turn.
Yeah, so you get a lot of turning scrub if you don't have a really good center drop. 1/4 inch is probably pretty safe. 3/8 is the most you'll ever need and is very, very safe. I guess you can go more than that, but then you might actually have a robot tipping problem because it'll be too much of a center drop, so you'll actually like have a little wobble back and forth.
We did an 1/8. That wasn't very good.
Yeah, I guess that's what they did with the Andy Mark kitbot, right?
Yeah, the kitbots by default was an 1/8, and they don't tell you in the upgrade kit to lower it.
Can you?
I mean, yeah, just drill a hole, but
Okay.
I mean, you'd actually rather want to move the outside ones up rather than
Wait.
the.
No, if you can't just drill a hole because
because the gearbox is in place. But if you
Yeah.
if you drill the ones for the outer wheels and move them up like a 1/4 inch.
Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah. You want more of a center drop. But anyway, we are 52 minutes over time, and we don't even have a main screen anymore. So thanks everyone for watching. This was an awesome episode of F4, probably the most informative episode of F4. Sorry that you can't see Chak and Nick right now. We didn't realize that it was gonna run this long. We thought it was maybe like half an hour over, not an hour over. So it was double the time as a normal episode. We'll probably have like a very quick after show, but yeah, it was really awesome. Hopefully, send this to rookie teams if you want, if they'll be willing to watch the whole thing. I'm sure they'll get a good amount out of it.
You know what, actually, Sam, in the description, why don't you have time codes for each section? Like one where we talk about vendors, one where we talk about wheels, etc.
So I think, Nick, I think you just volunteered to do that, right?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
No.
Yeah, great. So, anyway, guys, thanks for watching. We're going to have the intro run, and then we'll be back for a really quick outro. So, yeah, awesome. So...